Hello, still no access to the foreshore, so I've decided to do a top 10 of my medieval finds. Now these I've collected all from the Thames foreshore, all eyes only surface finds over the last 12 or so years. And number 10 is that rather unassuming piece of pottery. Now this is the earliest find. The medieval period, I'm a bit of a purist, so the medieval period would run from the early medieval period in the 5th century right through to 1500, not according to eBay, up to about 1700. So my cut-off date is 1500. This is the middle of the range, so this would be 10th or 11th century. So it's a cooking pot, it's got a little bit of sooting on it, nice square medieval rim, and then a round-bellied cooking pot with a sagging base to put in the fire. And I can imagine a humble Saxon peasant in his wattle and daub hut in the shadow of the newly constructed Tower of London built by his Norman overlords, eating his simple meal there in a London very different to our own. Moving forward a couple of hundred years, we have a very fine jug handle from Saintonge. So this is a French import, and it would have come over from Brittany as part of the wine trade in the early medieval period. So we're talking sort of 1250 to 1400, that sort of date. It's a very fine white clay, much finer than the contemporary homemade products, and it's got some nice decoration and some stab marks that go through there. So this is probably from a pegau, which is a large jug for communal serving of liquids. Medieval style of eating, very much into communal serving of food with a large group of people, communal serving of liquids. We don't get individual plates, we don't get individual cups until much later in the sequence. So that's number 9. Staying with continental imports, we have a rather nice piece of German stoneware. So this is from Siegburg, and you can see fine, very fine stoneware body with a bit of ash marking on it there, and a very nice impressed roundel. Now obviously German stoneware very much into impressed decoration when you think of the later Bartmann jugs. This would date from about 1350 to 1450, and would have been quite a remarkable product because it's stoneware. It's impervious to liquids, unlike all the earthenware pots that came before it. There were no stoneware manufacturers in this country, so they really cornered the market, the Germans, and these are widely traded all over northwest Europe from 1300 onwards. They're little Siegburg jug fragments there, and there's a rather lovely illustration of a medieval female potter making jugs and making the rilling marks with a cow bone that has been carved. So moving on, that's 10, 9, 8, 7 is a leg. A leg of what? It's got a little tiny pool of glaze inside and some splashes of glaze on the outside, so it would have been glazed. But it's the leg of an aquamanile, which is a very high status water or liquid pouring pot made in the shape of an animal. So I'm not sure what animal this would come from, but they're very high status. I mean, even more high status people would have had a metal one, maybe in copper alloy or even in a precious metal. I'll try and find a photograph of a whole one so you get an idea. but the leg of an aquamanile, which would have served water for washing hands or for drinking at a high status table. So we're talking about a bishop, a lord, a royal household, or a castle, or something like that in medieval London. Number 6 is a beautiful fragment of mill green ware. This comes from a highly decorated jug, and these large jugs were produced from about 1270 to 1350 or thereabouts. Interestingly, they die out about the time of the plague, the Black Death, and jugs after that are much more humble and very rarely decorated in any way at all, as if people were sort of deciding that they needed to be a bit less extravagant. So some wonderful decoration. This would cover the whole jug. Again, a large jug for communal serving, and it's in a red fabric with a grey core and lovely green copper glaze, and you can see flecks of mica in it which help identify it as coming from the kilns in Mill Green in Essex. So number 6 is that highly decorated jug fragment. Number 5, also a high status find. It's about 2/3 of a medieval tile, and I was just in awe when I found this, and I was just standing looking at it while people on the parapet above me were just staring at me, wondering what on earth was so interesting. This is a Penn style tile named after Penn in Buckinghamshire, where there was a large industry producing these things, and this will be 14th century. Again, you would only have tiles like this in your house if you were a rich merchant, a noble, a bishop, a church, a palace, that sort of scenario. So it's a nice find. I've got a picture here of the complete one, and you can see the missing piece was a fantastic beast, an animal head. You just see the edge of him there, and then you've got grapes and vine leaves there. So another cracking find from medieval London, which I found just lying on the foreshore. Number 7, how could I not have a lovely chunk of Surrey whiteware, coarse border ware for about 1350 to 1500. Hopefully you can see it's full of inclusions. You can see some lovely details of how they just simply pressed the handle on there, and then you've got slashing and stabbing there as decoration, and splashes of copper green glaze. Now this would be from a large jug, maybe a cistern, and it would be very unusual to find something as large as this on the foreshore that has survived 600 or 700 years of being buried and kicking around. So I was very happy to find that. Number 8 is a little bone object, and do you know what it is? Well, it's half of an object anyway. It's actually a chess piece, a medieval chess piece with ring and dot decoration there on it. Made of bone, as I said, medieval in date. I imagine that chess became popular after the Crusaders encountered the Arabs in the Holy Land, and maybe brought back chess as a game here. But again, a game played by important people, not your average peasant in their wattle and daub house. So that's quite a rare and interesting find there. Number 9 in the top 2. So what was this? Well, I didn't know when I found it. It's also bone, although there is inside it a iron peg or nail. Now this shows the importance of joining a group where there's a whole heap of experts and opinions. So I put this on Facebook thinking it was just a pulley, probably post-medieval, and it was quickly identified as the bone nut from a medieval crossbow. So there is a groove on both sides, and you've obviously got a spindle going through there, and then your little iron peg there. So you imagine the flat surface of your crossbow, you pull back your cord and you hook it onto that little thing, and then your little iron spike attaches to the handle. When you squeeze the trigger, then this revolves and releases the quarrel or crossbow bolt at your enemies. So another amazing medieval find. Bone remains for many hundreds of years on the Thames foreshore due to the anaerobic mud conditions. I mean, this has been sadly eroded where it's been unearthed. Could be antler as well, I suppose. But this wouldn't survive in many other contexts, so that's a good find. And finally, number 10, my best medieval find of all time is of course my Kingston Surrey whiteware face jug spout fragment. So again, this would date from the time of the highly decorated jugs, sort of about 1270 to 1350. Quite fine clay. There are some inclusions in it, which probably means it's a Kingston piece. And of all medieval jugs, the hundreds and thousands that were made, very few were elevated to be given a face mask up at the rim. I'll show you a picture of the complete one. So this fine medieval fellow has a beard, a forked beard, which is decorated on one side with slash marks, on the other side with little peck marks, and there's one of his eyes there. So a very rare find and a very interesting find to have made. So I hope you've enjoyed my top 10 medieval finds. If I can scrape together some other ones, maybe I'll do some other periods as well. And I hope that keeps us all entertained while we're stuck at home. Thank you and see you soon. Bye.